In the last video, I started parking this tractor here in the end of the garage, and when I did that, I put a little dish of my baking soda corn muffin mix under there in case, you know, any rats were to get in this area, that hopefully they would find that first before they get up into the tractor. And as you can see, plenty of that mix has been eaten out of there, and there are rat droppings right next to it. So if the hard part is getting them to eat it, we've at least accomplished that. And over here at the other bait station, you can see he's definitely been getting into that one. He actually tipped it over and spilled it onto the ground, which is fine. I think he'll still come back and eat some more if it hasn't done him in already. So this rat is definitely taking the bait. A lot of people said that was the hard part, just getting them to eat it, and he's eating it. Got anything? Plenty of tunnels. First job this morning is going around getting everybody fed, and then I've got an idea for a shop project that I'd like to get started on. We'll see if there's time. That's what's going on today on Farmertylerranch. Let me help you out with that. If you've been watching the channel, then you know I've been feeding the calves up in their feeders like normal, and for whatever reason it just dawned on me, why not bale graze them while they're out here on the pasture as well. About to lose that bale. Alright, everybody watch out. Got it. Cows are fed, so the next animals we're worrying about are the pigs. I've actually fed them off camera this morning in this feeder, because the nice feeder that I made for them is empty and I haven't had a chance to go fill it back up yet. The next step is getting a hot wire set up here around our old garden site, if you could even call it that. When I do T-post corners for a pig fence, I always sink them pretty deep because you got to figure the pigs are going to root this ground, turn it up, and dig down quite a lot. So if they do that right next to the post, you don't want it leaning over. It's about here, huh? So now we need a jumper wire to hook these two together. And I have found with any sort of thing like that you're going to put on the wire, I mean, some people have like these lights that tell you if it's live, but when you're doing anything like that on a wire that's going to be holding pigs, try to get that stuff sort of like in the corners or out of where they can easily mess with it. Because if you don't, they definitely will. So what we'll do is just put two of these jumpers together. And that'll give me enough distance to get over here where I need to go. This wire should be hot. Let's test it and see where it's at before we let them in here. Just a touch over 7,000 volts. That'll be plenty to do the job. And bear in mind too, that these pigs have been enclosed with a hot wire all summer long, so they are used to it. I wouldn't just set up a fence like this for pigs that have never seen hot wire before. These guys are already trained to it. I would be surprised if they even test this wire. That one hadn't figured it out yet. I don't know if you saw that, but that pig just like barely pushed up against that wire, and as soon as it felt it, it jumped away. I know that the wire didn't actually shock it, but as soon as the pig felt something, it just backed off. So that's a great sign. That means that this will hold them, I hope. What do you think? You look happy. Get the bucket and get started. All right, got this full, pretty full. I might be able to fit a little bit more in here, but you know, it's full enough.
I filled my feeder up twice now out of the same super sack, and it looks like there's enough feed left in here to fill it up one more time, which is really good information for me to know moving into the future. Let's get this thing moved out of the way so I can close the gate and let the pigs in here. They have been watching me fill that feeder, and I think they're ready to dig in. You guys been watching me, I guess you know your feeder's full. Well, it took them a minute, but they figured it out. Let's go put this sack of feed away and then we'll move on to the next thing. The next thing that I want to work on today is something that I have touched on before, and that is a toolbox or some sort of storage for the tractor where I can put things like linch pins, hammers, drawbar pins, things like that. And I have looked all over this tractor, and there are only two places where I can potentially see making it work. The first place is right here in the front of the tractor. There's 4 bolts here that mount this grill guard, and they're probably also there in case you wanted to put nose weights on the tractor. I was thinking that I could use those bolts to put a little toolbox right in this little area here. I think it'd be long enough to fit a hammer and pretty much everything else that I would need to put in there. And then the other place is down here on this support for the loader. I think I could come up with some sort of like way to clamp it to this rectangular tubing and have the toolbox kind of float right here in between the tires. I think it would be easy enough to get to, and what I like better about putting it here is that it's not such a specialized mount, in that when I have to give this tractor back, I can take this off and go mount that box somewhere else, possibly on another machine. Oh, and did I mention to up the cool factor of this project and the difficulty level, I want to try to make this all out of aluminum. I've got this leftover piece of aluminum. This is from when I put the blockers on the stock trailer. This is like 8 by probably not quite 2 feet wide, but close to that. And then I've got this piece of diamond plate here. This is a little bit thicker. This is, what is it? Gosh, might be 1/4 inch. It's at least 3/16. But I think this would be cool, like for the lid or something like that. Whatever part is going to be more visible. And then I've got this piece of 1.5-inch aluminum angle iron. So I'm hoping out of all these pieces, I can cobble something together. Well, on my toolbox, I've got a variety of weld quality. I've got pretty rough, downright embarrassing, and for my skill level, pretty okay. I have to tell you guys how humbling it is. I feel like I have a pretty decent handle on stick welding and MIG welding, and then when I try to do something like this, I just feel like a beginner all over again, and it does. It humbles you, which is probably not a bad thing. And I know that the only way I'm gonna get better at TIG aluminum is just by practicing, and that is actually a big reason why I wanted to make this toolbox out of aluminum. Could have very easily made it out of steel, but I wouldn't have had a chance to practice my skills on something that, let's face it, if it breaks, is really not that big of a deal. It's not like there's any lives at stake here. And I think part of the reason why my weld quality varies so much is because I was doing the thing that you're not supposed to do, and I was adjusting my settings while I was working on the project. And if I was smart, what I would have done is just taken some scrap pieces of aluminum and got my settings dialed in before I started the actual project. To weld this up, I've been using my Everlast PowerTig 210 EXT, and the settings that I landed on were 115 amps, 120 hertz, 40% AC balance, which might sound high to people that know a little bit about this, but the aluminum was fairly dirty, so I wanted to have that cleaning action turned up a little bit. In fact, things started working a lot better once I did turn it up. I actually got a lot of arc time on this project, and now I am going to get a lot of practice cleaning up these welds that I just don't feel comfortable with, and they're ugly. Every time I look at them, it's gonna make me mad. So I am gonna fix those, but I also hear Callie barking at something outside, and I just wanna make sure that all the pigs are still where they are supposed to be.
Shut this guy off. Where's the switch? There it is.
Plus, it'll give that a chance to cool off, and then once it does, I do just kind of want to hold it up where I think it's going to go and get an idea of how it's going to fit in there. Well, we got 5 of you. Oh, there's 6 in the pen. Okay, carry on. First test, hammer fits in that perfectly. I'm thinking we mount this, it'll be kind of like out here, close to the steps, but obviously not touching them, and then it just has to be far enough away from the loader hoses so that it doesn't interfere with them if we want to take the loader on and off. It's probably going to end up being about right here. So that's more or less where I plan for it to go on the tractor. I think it'll work. It's not like the perfect location, but it's the most perfect one that I can find without making any permanent modifications to the tractor itself. So the next step is going to be the lid. I hope you guys didn't think I was going to do this without a lid. That would be a total disaster on a tractor. The lid I'm going to make out of the heavier diamond plate, and then I'll have to get some sort of a hinge and a latch to keep that closed so that while we're bouncing around, stuff doesn't fly out of there. But I think that's as far as I'm gonna get with the toolbox today. Hopefully in the next video we can get it done. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.